I get it, you're staring at that sleek box on the shelf, wondering if spending a good chunk of cash on a 55-inch touchscreen is really worth it for a living room upgrade. I've been there, scrolling through a sea of specs and a handful of mixed reviews, trying to decide whether a smart display would actually improve family movie nights or just sit as another pricey gadget. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break it down together, looking at the real-world experience of the ViewSonic IFP5541 and see if it solves the headaches you've probably had with traditional TVs and separate soundbars. First off, the biggest question most people ask is whether the built-in 55-watt soundbar can actually replace a dedicated home theater speaker. In a typical medium-sized living room, say, a space that's about 12 by 15 feet, the sound from this panel is surprisingly clear for dialogue. The integrated microphones pick up your voice for commands, and the audio processing seems tuned for speech, which makes streaming shows on Netflix or catching a sports highlight feel less muffled than a standard TV speaker. For a casual viewer who just wants the words to be audible without turning the volume up to the point where the neighbors start complaining, the IFP5541 does a decent job. When it comes to the bass, though, you have to temper your expectations. The 55-watt bar doesn't have a separate subwoofer, so low-frequency punch is modest. If you're watching an action movie with deep explosions or a concert where you want the floor to thump, the experience will feel a bit flat compared to a traditional 5.1 system. That said, for a family of 3 watching a Disney movie, the bass is enough to give a sense of depth without drowning the dialogue. Another common hesitation is the surround effect. The display's audio is essentially a single sound source, so you won't get the sweeping, directional feel of a multi-speaker arrangement. In practice, this means that you won't be pulled into a soundtrack the way you might be with a dedicated soundbar that includes side-firing drivers. If you value that cinematic ambience, you'll probably want to add external speakers later. For most people looking for a clean, minimal setup, the built-in audio is a convenient compromise. Now, let's talk connectivity, because that's often where the rubber meets the road. The IFP5541's single-cable USB-C connection is a real time saver. You hook up your laptop, a streaming stick, or even a gaming console, and you get video, power, and data over one line. It's especially handy if you're the sort of person who likes to keep the floor tidy and avoid a tangle of cords. I tried feeding a 4K YouTube stream through a USB-C hub, while also mirroring a tablet for a quick photo slideshow, and the transition was seamless, no lag, no extra adapters. For a household where multiple devices need to be swapped in and out, that simplicity could be a major plus. On the flip side, the remote that comes with the unit feels a bit dated. It's a basic infrared controller with a scroll wheel, which works fine for adjusting volume or navigating the Android menu, but it lacks the tactile feel of a dedicated media remote, and there's no backlit button layout for a dim room. If you're used to the sleek Bluetooth remotes that come with higher-end soundbars, you might find yourself reaching for a smartphone app more often than the provided remote. The Android EDLA certification is another angle worth mentioning. The system runs a full Android OS, so you get access to the Play Store directly on the screen. In practice, that means you can install a streaming app, open a web browser, or pull up a collaborative whiteboard without a separate computer. For teachers or remote workers who want a dual-purpose device, both a meeting screen and a casual entertainment hub, the IFP5541 pulls double duty. I set it up for a virtual yoga class, and the built-in mic array captured my voice clearly enough that participants could hear instructions without needing an external speakerphone. But there's a catch for those who are primarily looking for a cinema upgrade. The display's brightness is solid for an office setting, but in a brightly lit living room, it can struggle to compete with sunlight streaming through windows. The eco-friendly visual performance means it's calibrated for lower power consumption, which is great for the planet and your electric bill, but it also translates to a slightly dimmer picture in glare-heavy rooms. If your room has large windows and you don't use heavy curtains, you might have to compromise on picture intensity. Who should consider buying the ViewSonic IFP5541? If you're a family that values an all-in-one solution, good enough sound for movies, a responsive touchscreen for games or educational apps, and the convenience of a built-in Android platform, this device could be a strong fit. It also makes sense for a small office or a classroom where interactive touch and easy content sharing outweigh the need for a dedicated home theater rig. The ability to run video calls, annotate presentations, and stream entertainment from